What we're going to do, obviously, because of a limited amount of time, we're going to allow each of the 4 panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll take any questions from the audience before we wrap up. So, Travis, only because you're at the end, we'll start with you, please.
All right. So I'm Travis Cox. I'm the co-director of sales engineering for Inductive Automation. We make the ignition software products. Did you want me to talk about OT/IT convergence?
If you want to talk about briefly about your IT/OT convergence solutions, sure.
Yeah, so from the beginning, Inductive Automation, we have chosen to build our product on open IT standard technologies, such like SQL databases, leveraging protocols like OPC UA, MQTT, so that we can get that information out to more people and to other applications in an open and secure way.
Okay, Sabi?
Okay, thanks, Travis. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Savi Chandra. I head the TCS Utilities Business Unit in North America. Work with some of the large utilities such as Southern California, Exelon, PG&E, and so on. So we have been helping our clients and the utilities primarily in the grid modernization space, which has got significant IT/OT convergence opportunities. Now, the way we are trying to help them in terms of changing the mindset is that while there is this value chain of generation, transmission, distribution, and retail, if you really look at it, it's a data-driven value chain. So we are helping them to see how we can make the real-time data more meaningful and take intelligent action. So some examples would be that for one of the utilities, we are trying to see if we can map the SCADA, the operational technology data, and the work data, the customer data, the asset data, everything, if we can put that in the geospatial system, so that all this data in one place can help us take the right decision in terms of, if we know there is an outage, which customer is going to be impacted or which asset might have caused the impact. And lastly, in terms of the change management, when it comes to that, in terms of helping them embrace IT/OT convergence, I think there are a couple of areas that we are helping them. One is building, the capabilities within the organization in terms of analytical capabilities, in terms of IoT capabilities. That is one. Secondly, helping them, build a very secure architecture, because as you know, in the utilities case, you have the critical national infrastructure, which are governed by NOC, SIF, or the nuclear stuff, which Bill talked about, CFR 810. So these are some of the critical areas. So how do you help clients make a secure architecture so that nothing is compromised? And finally, whatever we do in the utilities world, we try to keep the customer at the forefront. So whatever you do in the grid space or even in the customer space, the ultimate objective is to how do you build customer advocacy, how do you be more customer-centric, so that you provide them with real-time information.
Okay,
so that's the kind of...
Thank you. Patrick?
Hi, my name is Patrick Mundy. I work for Capstone Technology. I'm a business manager for them. Capstone started way back in the 80s. A group of really intelligent staff at an operating company needed data analytical and visualization tools to improve performance, improve safety, reliability. And so they went ahead and built it, and were so successful, it got implemented at multiple plants. They then jumped out just before the turn of 2000, and made Capstone and continued to support those plants. So we come out of an operations-oriented mindset with a lot of experience in operations. Most of our customers now, so we offer a data analytical and visualization package, which connects to all data sources, LIMS, historians, PLCs, control systems, SAP, SQL. We've got some customers that have a data park of 15 sites, over 300 data sources, and so it pulls it all together. One of the, maybe a quote I could share from our president, he said, what we really offer is the ability for a person to sit down and solve a problem in one sitting. And so we offer analytical tools all the way up to the PLS and the PCA, principal component analysis, which is some of the technology that W.R. Grace, Ryan talked about earlier. And the whole idea is to compress the amount of time that it takes to get the job done that they have been getting done in the past 30, 40 years.
Okay, Harry?
I'm Harry Sim from Cypress Envirosystems. Our company focuses on retrofit solutions that are non-invasive to help existing plants digitize, but without a lot of operational disruption, without running wires, without cutting pipes, and minimum amount of engineering. We work with Exelon, Bill Ansley. You saw some of our products there, those clamp-on devices that install in minutes and really cost a fraction of what traditional solutions cost. We've been working with Exelon for about 2 years now, looking at their fleet requirements. We deployed mainly for this application, it seems very typical now, is how do you get all that data from existing plants so you can feed your digital twin model? You know, we're very data hungry with these IoT models. If you have an existing plant, it's very difficult and hard to get that data. So we have these non-invasive ways to get it quickly and with minimal disruption.
Okay, great. And I'll turn to the audience to see if they have any questions. If anybody raises their hand and wants to stand up, I'm not sure if I have a floating mic in the room, but if we see any questions, if not, I can give some questions to get started. One question I actually have then for, I'll start with our 4 speakers first, and I'll let the panelists comment, is after technology installation, have you seen a culture change at the plant? So after you've gone through the IoT convergence, and I guess we'll start at the end, so we'll, start with Alan.
I'd like to say that it's been, magical, but no, it hasn't. It definitely is changing. A top-down change is not necessarily going to drive, it's going to drive behavior. To drive culture, you have to show value. You have to show them that, and really where that's going to come from is the customer seeing the benefit and the benefit to the employees that you're trying to drive the culture change to. They have to understand there's a value in making that change. And so we're still in that white water where we're top-down driven. We're changing behavior. Culture is slowly changing with that, but we're working on the value piece.
Okay, we'll go to Eric.
Like I mentioned in ours, we've seen that people that trying to believe what they're actually seeing and get them to believe that culture shift. It's something new, it's electronic, it can't be right, it can't be seen what it needs to see. It's got to be something wrong with it, and getting that through to everybody. And we definitely have a range of operators. One plant's kind of a younger plant for some reason, and the other one's considerably older.
Okay.
So trying to get both groups buy-in. We've seen faster buy-in on the younger plant and as a whole, but it's definitely shifting. People are starting to believe what they're seeing.
Okay,
We've
Ryan?
got the good foundation.
Yep.
Yeah, so personally, I think we've actually seen a pretty good culture change because with the way we've implemented it, it hasn't really changed how at least our operations group isn't doing anything. They're still operating their job in the same manner, but the difference is now they have all of that information at their fingertips rather than having to go out and get it. So they're realizing that they can have a better view of the process rather than having to go find it and piecemeal it all together. So from an operations standpoint, I know our control room operators and our foremen actually really appreciate it because they get a better snapshot of the process and they can react better. They're starting to understand the process a little bit more rather than just opening the valve and pushing the button. And having them engaged with the process on that level means that we get solutions faster. There's no longer a lag in response from anyone, and they don't misunderstand what's actually happening. They understand the process on a deeper level, and I think that's driving a good culture change, and it's having a lot of buy-in from our operations group.
Okay, great. Bill?
So when we assembled our digital plant team, it's very visible, and we try very hard to communicate back. And so all the fleet has been watching us quite a bit, so they are embracing and kind of looking forward to these changes. But I also will admit that they're very skeptical as well, that whether or not these ideas will actually pan out, because they are definitely different ideas or so. But yeah, it's case-by-case basis. Certain areas, I think, the older people are more skeptical, while the younger embrace it. And we are definitely an older culture than the younger. But as a whole, I think they're okay with it.
And now I'll ask the 4 panelists as far as you've deployed IoT convergence solutions with your customers, are you beginning to see, as you go back to those customers, the culture change? I'll start with Harry.
So our customers, we help them digitize their existing plants. So that's like one in common. But then I would say they split into two parts. One is that these customers who actually are very hungry for the data, they know what to do for the data. They've been waiting for years to get this data, and finally they have it, bam, they're off and running. That's super good. It's much easier to deal with. Then there are the other customers, you digitize them, and they're hiring data scientists or mining the data, trying to figure out what's going to happen. That's a culture change, and that may yield bigger fruit, but it's a tougher road to go. So I would think there's low-hanging fruit to go for the people who are hungry for the data first.
Okay, Patrick?
There's still a lot of people out there, a lot of engineers, operations doing things the old way. And when you step in and show them the new way, I still remember we were on the hall and a guy that worked in the reformer came by. We were working in the crude unit, and I said, "Hey, what's important to you?" And he says, "Octane." And I said, well, how does that work? He says, I got 5 hours, I got to wait for the lab value to come back before I can make any improvement on my process. And he uses that to alter the process. And so I looked over at the engineer that we had in there. I said, build him an Octane model right now. And in 5 minutes, he had an Octane model that snapped to. It gave him, so now he's got a 5-hour jump on what's going on with the process. And it's a huge savings to him. So, seeing is believing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree with some of the speakers. I mean, coming from the utilities industry, I think the change has been slow. I mean, some of these companies are more than 100 years old, and there is a saying that if Thomas Alva Edison was alive today, he would say that nothing has changed. It's the same generation, transmission, distribution, retail. But having said that, I think the business imperatives are important as to why we are talking about IT/OT convergence rather than taking a technical view. Two important things which we are trying to explain to the customers. One is, the grid reliability. With all these wildfires and storms and other things, IT/OT convergence can actually integrate your billions of smart meters with your outage management and SCADA to really get real-time information whether outage is happening, whether restoration is happening or not. So that is one. And utilities are gradually becoming more retail. Already you have seen in Australia and UK, customer experience is of paramount importance because the customers have a choice to which utility to go for. So I think this customer centricity and the grid reliability, these are the two things which are being enabled by IT/OT convergence. One other thing that I wanted to highlight is that from an organizational change point of view, we are seeing a lot of horizontal scaling and vertical scaling that is happening. By horizontal scaling, I essentially mean that there are a lot of new technologies that people are trying to learn, whether it is data science, whether it is IoT, whether it is moving to cloud and stuff like that. And by vertical scaling, what I mean is that changing the old mindset of having different siloed operations. How can you integrate all this and give one view to your customer, and so elevate your level of understanding and moving from the traditional value chain to a more integrated value chain.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it comes to OT-IT convergence, really one of the most important things is having the common ground between the two sides and really understanding the expectation requirements that live on each of the sides. And a lot of what's happening today with IoT and is the demand for data is being driven from the top down, and there has to be real understanding of the operations side as well and the risks that are involved with that. And it's a lot of that common ground is understanding the technologies that are being used between the two sides, and the fact that operations, they need to keep their systems running, but they don't need to be managing all of the equipment and all of the servers, all that infrastructure. But they typically have had to because IT just simply doesn't understand the solutions, or they're proprietary, and they just kind of look like this. Oh, you guys take care of that. So if you have technology that is based on standards, especially that IT understands, they tend to be on board. And as long as you can prove a better operational system with the and with the ability to get that information to the business, or either the data itself or the visualization to the business side, without turning your solutions there into middleware, then you get a much better reaction from the IT folks, and they can start taking the advantage of that data and doing more with it in terms of analytics, machine learning, and whatnot. So it's really finding that common ground using technologies that both sides really understand, and we're starting to see customers who are involving IT and making sure they're part of that process. And there's managers on both sides that are like Alan was saying, they're both there and understand the solutions and are able to, at that point, assign responsibility and be able to manage it going forward.
Okay. Because we're just about out of time, so I'm just going to ask one simple question to all the panelists. And if your whole presentation was one bullet on a PowerPoint slide for lessons learned, what message would you want the audience to come away from? And I'll start with Alan, and we'll go right down the line.
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to lay the foundation and get rolling.
Okay. Yep.
Everything's data-driven, and it needs to be together at your fingertips.
And make sure you communicate what you're doing.
Has to pay back quickly.
Show them the value practically.
Customer is the heart of everything.
I will echo communication. It's key.
Excellent, excellent. Please, we had a lot of great content today. Really happy with our speakers and our panelists. Please give them a round of applause because I think they did an awesome job.